it's going to be RDU. And representing Americas, which seems a little weird, but he lives in the States now. It's Savjz.
It's a secret spy technique the Americas region has implemented, making sure we adopt some of the European players.
The ways to defend yourself, but we'll see. We have plenty more time left at the Witchwood Invitational. 2 more matches plus the finals, the winner-take-all finals at the end of the broadcast. But let's get into game number 1 of this series. RDU on Priest and Savjz on Paladin. And it looks like this is going to be the odd-cost Paladin with Baku the Moon Eater.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of things about this Paladin. A lot of players have been playing this Paladin on streams and on ladder, and you just queue into it all the time. And it's just because the Paladin upgraded hero power is very good, especially with a lot of cards like the Maul. The Maul can buff up the 1/1s on curve as well. On top of Corridor Creeper is back. I know a lot of people didn't want to hear that, but Corridor Creeper is back, and it is still just as powerful.
In the Witchwood, I go deeper.
I don't know the rest of that.
Finish the riddle.
Finish the riddle.
I don't know. Chat will do it for us. And so there's been a couple ways to build the odd-cost Paladin. And a lot of it revolves kind of around the 3 slot, I feel. We saw Sword of Justice as a card that was included earlier. Marsh Drake is in or out, depending on like if you have Light's Justice. How many 1-drops you actually run is a big thing as well. And sort of that top end. And we heard Savjz talking about Witch's Cauldron, so I can imagine that's in the deck as well to generate some of those Shaman spells. You get a Bloodlust off any of those, you're probably going to win the game.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see what direction they take. There's the direction with the Witch's Cauldron that we were talking about earlier. There's also, I've seen some lists play Raid Leader, which is a little funny to think about. Raid Leader in competitive play.
Well, I don't think it's that funny because people got to get scrappy when there's the first set in a set
That is
rotation.
very true.
Because there's 200-something less cards in the pool. So you're gaining 1 expansion, but you're losing 3. And so you have to kind of make things work. You build a deck with 22 cards, and you're like, well, what do I put in now? And that's where the Raid Leaders, the Stormwind Champions...
You're the coach of your Paladin team, and you're trying to figure out who you want to put in to score the game-winning point. And Raid Leader's looking at you, and just with hope in his eyes that he finally gets picked for the team.
And then he misses.
And Witch's Cauldron gets put in immediately.
And then Witch's Cauldron comes in and just wins the game for you. But on the other side, RDU looks like he's playing a combo priest, dragon combo priest, and the Nightmare Amalgams are an interesting choice that was decided to put in because there was a few dragons that rotated out, notably Draconid Operative, and players just needed a little bit more oomph with their dragon synergy. And Nightmare Amalgam fills that void of, well, I want to get on the board early, I want a nice statted minion that also acts as an early dragon activator that I'm pretty happy to keep in my hand. And Nightmare Amalgam fits that because it's a dragon, a beast, a murloc, a demon,
Pirate.
a pirate.
Don't forget Pirate. Yeah, the Nightmare Amalgam is a very powerful card in the set because they did lose a lot of dragons. They lost Nether Spite Historian, Bookworm, and Draconoid Operative, and the replacements they got were Nightmare. There's Nightscale Matriarch, which is the 7-mana 4/9 Priest Dragon, that whenever a friendly minion is healed, you get to summon a 3/3 Drake. And RDU not wasting any time here, just saying, you know what? You don't have a way to answer this. There's no quality in your odd-cost Paladin deck. There's no Dark Conviction. This is a 10/10. It's sticking.
There's no Sunkeeper Terra.
What is there then, TJ?
A lot of small stuff. And Savjz is also going to get the notification next turn that Duskbreaker is still in standard play. And he's got the Nightmare Amalgam to be able to clean up the board, let his 10/10 keep clocking away. And Savjz just going to try and get at least a little bit of Divine Favor value right off the bat.
I think Savjz is really hoping to draw maybe that Witch's Cauldron to find Hex, or there's also the possibility of drawing Level Up and just trying to push as much damage as possible.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, RDU is going to say, none of that nonsense. This 10/10 is going to hit you.
That it will.
And Baku the Moon Eater is not something that Savjz wanted to draw. I mean, there is Glacial Shard. Glacial Shard does stall for a little bit, but I mean, how long can we stall? How long can Savjz? How long can this go on?
I like the stutter there, like there was 2 played. Very nicely done. Well, Witch's Cauldron will be protected because it does have that 4 health stat line, so you could Glacial Shard trade in right away to maybe pick up an Earthshock, still fit in an Earthshock.
Earthshock is a good one.
Farsight, not the greatest. You can maybe draw a level up from Farsight and then make a bigger swing turn later on, but the thing Savjz is worried about right now is just living.
Yeah, Savjz is really worried about that. And I mean, the most that Savjz can do right now, I think, is honestly just stall. There is Righteous Protector. Righteous Protector is another very good stall tool. There's also another Glacial Shard in the deck. Savjz could pick that up with the Farsight and hopefully eventually hope that there is no answer for this Witch's Cauldron, and then maybe capitalizing on getting a Hex or a Earthshock or even Frostshock to stall some more. I mean, at this point, it's the stalling game. And RDU thinking... RDU is presented with a very interesting option. RDU is presented with, does he want to play the Nightmare and sacrifice the potential for Wormguard to be activated next turn?
Yeah, at this point I don't really feel like he needs the taunt aspect of it or the additional attack, to be honest.
Just playing the 7-mana 3/11 is good, especially with the Inner Fire.
Yeah. And I don't see a way out for Savjz. He can't kill any of these. He has to rely on getting something from Witch's Cauldron that's going to help him.
Oh, I completely forgot about Crushing Hand.
Crushing Hand!
That's an answer.
And Savjz rubs his hand together like an evil villain.
I mean, that was very diabolical, what he just did.
It was.
I don't think RDU is ever going to be able to forgive him.
No. He's still behind.
He still might lose
Let's
this game.
Let's not paint this for something that it's not. He is going to need quite a bit of help. But this is going to, once again, protect his Witch's Cauldron, or at least force RDU to use Inner Fire on the Nightmare Amalgam to kill it. And if he does that, then he's not developing unless he picks up a minion that he can fit in with Dustbreaker, but no Dragon Activator because he played the Nightmare Amalgam last turn. So.
And this is a very hard choice. I think you have to commit the Wormguard, because if RDU commits the Wormguard and Savjz does not pick up, there's 4 chances at a good Shaman spell. If Savjz does not pick up a good Shaman spell that costs 4 or less mana, most of the time RDU can just get there. Prince Leon.
Let's start digging.
Gotta start digging. Ice Fishing is a whiff.
A big whiff.
Zap is...
kind of a whiff.
kind of a whiff. What's next? What's in the cauldron?
Also,
That's a whiff. Next batter up. That's where Raid Leader would have been put in.
Ancestral Healing. That could save him.
That does save him. Unless a dragon is picked up for Dustbreaker. But as it stands right now, that saves him.
With Dustbreaker.
Well, the Inner Fire could be cast, then the Amalgam goes in, and then
Yeah.
Dustbreaker gets cast.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of Shaman spells, but a lot of nothing. I think Farsight has to be played. Maybe Savjz says, if I can live one more turn and get these 1/1s, there's a chance.
And if
Not really seeing it.
he wants to get exceptionally greedy, he's gonna Ancestral Spirit. Oh no, he's gonna Ancestral Healing on one of the 1/1s. But it looks like it's just gonna be Witch's Cauldron to try and guarantee that value is gonna be able to be generated.
And that's just lethal. The dragon was picked up for the Dustbreaker, and RDU is going to take this first game if he sees it. Sure, RDU sees it. He's just thinking about how much damage he wants to deal.
Yeah. And despite Savjz getting some value from the Witch's Cauldron, doing his best to utilize those Shaman spells to keep himself alive, RDU is going to take game number 1, showing that Combo Priest still has some game, and especially with some of the new additions to the deck, definitely still something to be reckoned with. But definitely still got some game. Board sweeps, I feel like, are really important right now because of the popularity of some of the flood decks like God Cost Paladin. And they did lose Netherspite Historian, which was a way to get additional Dustbreakers, so you have to rely on natural Dustbreaker draws. And that's why Wild Pyromancer, which also has synergy with your deck and drawing cards with Northshire Cleric, has been making its way through. But let's go into game number 2. Savjz going to play the Paladin again, whereas RDU looks like he's going for an odd cost Quest Warrior.
It's not odd cost though, TJ. Look at that.
Whoa, it's not
little
odd
raptors.
cost.
It is
Right.
just Quest Warrior.
Oh man.
Maybe he didn't pull Baku the Moon Eater, so he
Yeah.
felt really bad and he wanted to just build Quest Warrior anyways.
Yeah, and there's actually some interesting stuff in here. It looks like it's just trying to complete the quest as quick as possible. It's got a lot of low-cost taunts: Tar Creeper, Stonehills, Phantom Militia, Cornered Sentry. But it's also got some tempo stuff like some Rush Minions, Militia Commander Darius Crowley. And then it's got Blackwalled Pixie, which allows you to reset your hero power once it's played. It's a 3-mana 3/4, which I can imagine is fantastic later on in the game when you equip Soul Frost, change your hero power to deal 8 damage to a random enemy, and then start firing off 8 damage blasts. Hopefully to your opponent's face.
Yes, that's the card I'm most excited to see how it interacts inside of this deck, because dealing 16 damage in one turn is very powerful, but against this Paladin deck, I mean, 1/1s could just get in the way. So 1/1s could take one for the team and sacrifice themselves for 16 damage.
Yeah. But Corner Sentry plus Whirlwind. It's going to work against RDU in the sense that Savjz has a Corridor Creeper.
I don't think Savjz is too upset about that.
Yeah.
Savjz can play the Henge Clan Thug that Admiral and I were talking about earlier, and that card has been putting in some work, TJ.
Yes, it has.
He's been putting in some overtime in the Henge Clan offices.
Putting in some thuggin'.
Some thuggin' overtime.
So I'm curious how he wants to play out this turn, because he can trade in his 2/1 in attack to get out Corridor Creeper. But he doesn't actually get through the Cornered Sentry if he does that, so it's a little bit of an inefficient way to go about it.
I think Savjz needs to get this Corridor Creeper down this turn, just to try and put as many stats on the board as possible. And Savjz also wants to swing. I guess maybe playing Arch-Inspire, but I really like getting Corridor Creeper down. I think what Savjz is thinking here is that if he commits to the Corridor Creeper, he has to trade off the minion, and then it leaves his Henge Clan Thug vulnerable to the 2/1 currently on the board.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, Savjz probably doesn't know what's in RDU's decks, especially since Baku the Moon Eater didn't come out. So, I mean, Savjz might have been expecting, I can kind of guess what the odd cost cards will be, but RDU doesn't have only just odd cost cards. He's got everything. And, I mean, we can see that with the Primordial Drake, and that was one of the key cards in past Taunt Warrior metas.
Yeah, there's a few cards that are even cost that you give up when you're playing odd cost Quest Warrior that help you deal with wide board states, notably Warpath, which was a new addition, which is the Echo Whirlwind effect, and also Bloodraiser, which is a fantastic card for dealing with wide board floods, which even cost and odd cost paladins do that alike. So he realized, and Primordial Drake. So just a bunch of board sweeps that kind of make the deck more consistent against the faster styles, but don't give you that extra armor up. But if your opponent just keeps flooding the board and you're just trying to armor out of it, a lot of times that's less effective than just removing the board in the first place.
That's a very strong read from RDU, recognizing that this odd cost card Paladin is so popular and a lot of people are bringing it, that he said, you know what, I'm just going to beat it with Whirlwind effects. I mean, sometimes that's all it takes is just a couple of Whirlwind effects.
Yeah.
However, RDU's hand right now is looking a little clunky.
The Cauldron. There it is. The mythical Cauldron. I've heard legends of this Cauldron, DJ. It's all mine.
Legends of Hexes, Frost Shocks,
and
Unstable Evolution on the Corridor Creeper. Alright, I'm putting Witch's Cauldron in all of my decks for the rest of the expansion.
This is fantastic. making it easy to get another Shaman spell. You can trade in the Corridor Creeper and then Unstable Evolution to bring that Corridor Creeper to an 8-cost minion. Geo Sculptor Yip?
It's not the greatest, but it has a lot of stats on it.
It has a lot of stats. I believe that's the card that at the end of your turn summons a random minion equal to the cost of your armor.
Yes, and no real way for Savjz to generate armor.
How about we get a Shudder Walk?
9-drop.
Oh!
I wonder if Savjz is so emotionally attached to this Witch's Cauldron that he doesn't cast Unstable Evolution on it.
I think so.
He's going to cast it again. Tyrantus!
All right, that's,
Lord Jiraxxus was good.
that's fantastic, especially considering one of the ways that Warrior deals with big threats is execute, and you cannot execute a Tyrantus.
Now, if only RDU can cast Warpath 12 times, he might be able to answer this Tyrantus.
That's a bold, bold statement.
How much mana? 24 mana? It's a lot of mana, TJ, in order to kill a Tyrantus, but there is no way RDU can deal. And RDU just going to hit the concede button and say, you know what? That was too much for me. You okay over there, TJ?
Yeah, my headset's a little stuck.
And Savjz is going to go ahead and take that game. Looking really good for Savjz right there. I mean,
maybe with the exception of Totemic Might.
And now we're going to get to see, I think, one of the matchups I at least was hoping for, but I think a lot of people were hoping for this matchup, was the new Battlecry Shudderwalk Shaman versus Control Cube Warlock.
Yeah.
It's the battle of the Titans.
That is. These are the two decks that players have been saying are the two decks to watch out for in the Witchwood. The two decks that, above all, with 24 hours of experience under everybody's belts, are saying that these are the two decks that are going to be the decks to beat.
Meta's already solved. All you need is Shaman and Warlock.
Yeah. Or at least those are two decks that you have to keep in mind when you're building a deck to play, at least at the higher ends of ranked play. And Savjz, kind of pained to see this Manatide Totem come out, because the only way he has to deal with it is to use the coin with this Amethyst Spellstone, which delays his Possessed Lackey, which delays all of those powerful swing turns that Control Warlock loves.
And this is one of the beautiful nuances of the new meta, is what is Savjz more worried about? Is he more worried about the coin escalating his game plan later on in the game, or is he really worried about what RDU's game plan is? Because RDU's game plan right now is to draw his entire deck, Savjz off with the Shudderwalk combo that we saw previous. So Savjz recognizing that, saying, you know what, I think my game plan is good enough to delay it if I just make sure RDU does not draw these combo pieces.
Yeah. Or he just rips Gnome Feratu a few times.
Yeah, and that's the new...
and Shudderwalk goes bye-bye.
Yeah, Shudderwalk goes bye-bye. I really want to see that. I really want to see the Glenda Crow skin. Oh, the Baleful Banker.
Actually, that's not bad.
That makes it a whole lot harder. I mean, all RDU needs is one of them.
Yeah.
But it makes the combo a bit longer. And that's a new card. Witchwood Piper, I believe is its name. 4 mana 3/3, draw the lowest cost minion from your deck. And I've been playing around with that card, and that card is really good.
Yeah, it's basically just a draw a card. Because a lot of times this Shudderwalk Shaman runs a lot of 2-drops, so basically summons one of your random 2-drops, like Burlock, Doomsayer, Fireplume Harbinger, Loot Hoarder, Murmuring Elemental. A lot of them.
And I think a lot of players have recognized that the one thing they want to do with this Battlecry Shudderwalk Shaman is just get to the combo as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And we've seen that in decks in the past. A lot of the decks that aim to try and finish the game in one powerful combo. I mean, another one that brings to my attention is the Worgen OTK. That was you can't do anymore, of course, because of the way they nerfed the cards. But I mean, that was one of those decks that just aimed to draw as quickly as possible, get to the combo, and then try and end the game there.
Yep.
Except for this one is much cooler.
It also takes a lot longer.
Which makes it so much cooler.
Yeah, because you get to watch it for longer.
You know, watch your opponent suffer as Shutterwalk hits the board and gets bounced back to the hand, and then hits the board again, and then gets bounced back to the hand.
A dramatic reenactment.
That's just so cool, TJ.
Well, there's another Gnome Feratu and another Baleful Banker. So Savjz can burn another card and put another Gnome Feratu in the deck to have another chance. All right, let's see what it's going to be.
So he's really thinking on this. I think Savjz definitely wants to try and assemble that combination of cards with Glenda Kroskin and Gnome Feratu to try and burn as many cards as possible with the Summoning Portal. And I think that's just so cool.
Yes, it is.
It might be cooler than Shutterwalk. What if Savjz gets a Shutterwalk? That would be powerful.
But how?
I don't know. I don't know how.
But it'd be cool.
But it would, could you imagine?
Especially how many Gnome Feratus he's played. He could burn the rest of RDU's deck.
I think he would burn so many cards that he would start burning cards from RDU's next match. That RDU would just queue up a game on ladder and be like, why did the top 10 cards in my deck get burned? And RDU just going to go ahead and commit the Loot Hoarder, trying to, like I was saying earlier, draw into that combo, commit the Life Drinker as well.
Yeah.
Curious to see if RDU had any thought in playing the Witchwood Piper, just to draw an extra card. I mean, maybe there was some reason RDU wanted to commit the Life Drinker that early. But I think the name of the game for RDU right now is drawing cards.
Yeah, trying to find the pieces of that combo, which he does have a few already. He's got the Grumble, Saturday Night Chain Gang. He's played Life Drinker already. And there's Shutterwalk. So he's got... Doesn't have to be too worried about Gnome Feratu anymore. There's still a few key cards that he could discard that would reduce the amount of battle cries that happen. But at least they're going to happen in some capacity.
That was one of the other cards he was probably worried about burning, was the Murmuring Elemental.
Yeah.
I believe that RDU plays 2 of them. So if one gets burned, there's still another one in the deck. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's much safer to know that you have access to both of them.
Yeah. In Savjz at this point, the name of the game's got to be pressure. He's got to start putting damage on RDU to put him on a clock. But even that's kind of difficult at this point because once RDU starts going off with the combo, it's really hard to defend against it because of the way Life Drinker works. Especially, you know, with multiple Shutterwalks after the Grumble battle cry's been played.
And with the absence of Doom Guard, Savjz really only has pressure in the form of these Void Lords and Void Walkers.
Yeah.
There's not much pressure outside of maybe like a little bit of extra damage from the Gnome Feratu.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's not much pressure at all. I mean, I think Savjz is really hoping that he can kind of get there with this damage on board.
Mm-hmm.
But RDU runs 2 copies of Healing Rain. And that's just more stall. I don't think Savjz might not be able to get through. And there's that combo. Well, not the full combo, but Dog was mentioning earlier, the premise of it was to get Summoning Portal on the board with Meatwagon, play Glenda Crowskin, or I'm sorry, not Glenda Crowskin, but just get the Summoning Portal on the board, and with Phantom Militia, you can summon your entire board, since it would cost 1 mana and it has Echo. You thought Void Lords were scary, TJ.
What about Phantom Militias?
What about Phantom Militias? Oh, Savjz going to try and burn some cards from RDU, I believe.
Yeah, he's going to burn 1, I believe, because it's going to fill up the hand, and then there'll be 1 natural draw going into the following turn.
And there's that Summoning Portal. The one issue with that card is that it doesn't apply any pressure on RDU, and right now Savjz's game plan is pressure. Burning a Fire Plume. That was the only Fire Plume Harbinger. It's going to make it a little more awkward, I think. Maybe not. I think RDU's still fine. I don't think RDU needed access to that tool.
Well, yeah, it's usually to be able to get Grumble combos out a little bit easier because it reduces the cost of the elementals in your deck or like Murmuring Elemental combinations. but it's not super crucial. It just allows you to have extra access to those tools. The big thing is the Life Drinker being burned, because that's going to force RDU to have more Grumbles to try and finish the game. And there is a chance that Savjz might be able to match that with Blooded Gul'dan. I have to say, I haven't had too many opportunities to watch or play this specific matchup when one or a couple of my pieces get burned, how the Shutterwalk math ends up working out.
Well, the Shutterwalk...
I honestly have no idea.
I was doing the math, doing the calculations in my head right now, TJ.
Okay.
And if my calculations are correct, I don't think it's going to matter. I think the Shutterwalk can just get there, because what will happen is the Murmuring Elemental will come down, the Shutterwalk will come down beside it. It will, hopefully the board, RDU play the Doomsayers in order to clear the board so that this combo can happen. And what's going to happen is Murmuring Elemental is going to come down, Shutterwalk's going to follow, it'll cast the Battle Cries twice, which will guarantee that Grumble's effect will go off, bouncing another Shutterwalk to the hand. It will guarantee it because the Battle Cry will trigger twice.
Yeah.
And if it guarantees it, there's a Shutterwalk in the hand for 1 mana, and there also will bounce back the Murmuring Elemental. And it will be an infinite loop of that happening for 1 mana, and RDU can cast it up to 5 times in 1 turn. So even if Life Drinker, there's only 1 that was played, eventually RDU will just get there. It's absurd. It's bonkers, TJ. It's Shutterwalk. So I think Savjz understanding that, just trying to put as much pressure on the board after the Doomsayers go off. And I think RDU's already assembled enough, so he's just going to go for it. This is going to be the beauty of the
there it is. Let's see if Savjz is patient enough to let RDU completely play out these next 2 to 3 turns.
It might take a little bit, but it eventually will happen. I think maybe the only way is if Sandbinder draws enough cards that it would potentially burn both of the Shutterwalks, or I'm sorry, all 3 of the Shutterwalks when it gets grumbled.
Excuse me.
Burned 1 of them.
All 12 of the Shutterwalks?
And so, although Savjz still has a turn to play Gul'dan, next turn, Murmuring Elemental Shutterwalk, Murmuring Elemental Shutterwalk.
That's all he can do. Until he summons more back into his hand once the other battle cards have
And
resolved.
Savjz just said, nope, I don't want any of this. And RDU is going to take game number 3.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, TJ.
And RDU just kind of shakes his head thinking, wow. What a deck. Of course, the next week or so. But let's get into game number 4. Warrior for RDU. Savjz is going to play the Warlock once again.
And I believe this matchup is going to be very tough for RDU, because although the hero power is very strong when you get it, Void Lords and Void Walkers are going to constantly be in the way, and the hero power doesn't even kill a Void Lord.
It does not. And if it kills a 1/3, that's quite...
it's quite upsetting.
Sad. Yeah, it's pretty upsetting. But a decent start for RDU early on. It's got a lot of cheap taunts. Can start getting through that quest progress. If he can complete it quick enough, he might be able to start putting on pressure before Savjz is able to assemble a giant board full of Void Lords. And also, RDU isn't too worried about Nosferatu shenanigans, because he does have sort of the redundancy in his deck of being able to, summon multiple. If a Void Lord gets burned, he can still put a Void Lord back in his deck with Baleful Banker. He can still summon multiples with Carnivorous Cube. The deck has really just gained a little bit of consistency with the new set coming out, because you also have the access to... I was about to say Rat Puncher.
You mean Rat Catcher?
Rat Catcher. I was like, Rat Puncher just doesn't really make sense in my head.
That sounds like a cool card.
Yeah.
Sounds like a card I would want to play.
Just punches rats. It's like the crab specifically for rats.
And you see one of the new cards there, Darius Crowley.
It's a fantastic card. A 5-mana 4/4 with Rush. When it kills a minion, it gains +2/+2. So if you kill a minion with 0 attack on the turn that it's played, it's a 6/6. And it keeps growing over and over again. So it's been seen in a lot of the Tempo Rush decks, but I kind of had a sneaking suspicion that it would make an appearance in even control decks just because it's 5-mana, kill a thing, maybe even kill some more things.
It's a 2-for-1 card essentially.
Yeah.
It'll get 2 cards from your opponent for the price of your 1 5-mana card. And I think Savjz tempoed out the Summoning Portal last turn in hopes of being able to pull off that Phantom Militia combo that we, the elusive Phantom Militia combo that we just heard legends about.
Very elusive.
So elusive that it's kind of ghostly. Wouldn't you say, TJ?
Yeah, so elusive that it's kind of phantomly.
The combo is just like echoing over and over in my head.
Insert witty pun here.
It looks like RDU is just going to be... name of the game now is to complete that quest. It's only 1 of 7 so far. It's still got a long way to go.
Yeah, it'll come up pretty quickly. He's got a couple of Phantom Militias in his hand as well, so once he has access to more mana, he'll be able to start churning those out quite quickly. He's actually got all the taunt minions that he needs to.
Yeah, he does.
Finish the game, basically, or finish the quest, basically, not the game, because there's still another step that has to happen in between finishing the quest and killing your opponent.
And we do see a new card in RDU's hand with the Countess Ashmore. And that card is a 7-mana 6/6 that draws a Lifesteal, Rush, and Death Rattle minion from the deck. I believe.
Death Rattle card.
Death Rattle. Oh, you're exactly right. They're all cards. It's not just minions. So they can draw things like the Woodcutter's Axe, which is the 2-mana 2/2
Blood Razor
weapon that just came out from the Witchwood. Blood Razor is another draw.
Played in Warlock, it can get you Amethyst Spellstone because it is a Lifesteal card.
Reminds me a lot of the Curator, and the Curator, when it first got released, was a very powerful card and played in a lot of decks.
It was underrated for a while. When it was first revealed, a lot of players were saying, well, it looks okay, but where am I going to fit it into my decks? And it just took a while of tinkering with it and finding which Dragon Beast Murlocs were impactful, which decks you could fit it in, and then it ended up being a staple in a lot of decks. One of those being Quest Warrior, because you have Direhorn Hatchling,
Primordial Drake,
and that was basically it, but that's all you needed because it just was a taunt itself that drew you more taunts. It was a value generator, essentially, a resource generator.
And it's started to come to people's attention that, just drawing cards in general, no matter what they may be, is very powerful, especially in these more slower matchups, and especially when you can control what you draw. With Curator, sometimes it was put into lists in order to just draw Malygos for a combination of cards, and maybe we'll see that over the course of time with Countess Ashmore. It's put in the deck just to draw certain Lifesteal cards or certain Rush cards.
But Savjz looking like he's in some trouble. He does have the Possessed Lackey on board, but this Darius Crowley keeps growing ever larger, so the Void Lord, which is actually not even going to be summoned by Possessed Lackey because he's got both Void Lords in hand.
This Darius Crowley is getting very out of hand. It is an 8/7 right now. That means that he has gobbled up at least 2 minions right now, and he's going for his 3rd.
At least 2.
Exactly 2. My apologies.
I mean, you're right. It is at least 2.
And Savjz, all Savjz could do is just kind of try and put a taunt wall in the way to stop some of the bleeding.
Nice little raptors.
Cornered Sentry, Blood Razor, just a very nice combination of cards. And unfortunately, RDU really wanted to push that 8 damage, but I think he'll be fine just making Darius as big as possible.
I would say so.
And let's see, does Lord Godfrey clear this board? I thought there were board states that Lord Godfrey could not clear. And Orange proved me wrong.
It actually doesn't clear.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It needed one of those corrupted sentries to be a 2-4, and then it would have cleared the board. But yeah, looking a little awkward for Savjz right now. Maybe there's some kind of clear with Defile. Not particularly, and being on 7 mana doesn't allow Savjz to use the Hellfire and the Spellstone, and this Darius needs to be answered.
Yeah, he's 1 turn off from being able to do something pretty powerful with the Hellfire plus Spellstone. And Savjz, this Possessed Lackey, won't even pull a demon from his deck because he's playing the control variant that does not run Doom Guards.
It just runs Void Lords, and both Void Lords, unfortunately for Savjz, are in the hand.
Yeah, this one's looking grim, because even if Savjz manages to get through this board, the main win condition of RDU's deck is still very much so alive with the quest.
Lucky for Savjz here, the Lord Godfrey can come down next turn and answer the board state. And I believe it will answer just about anything RDU can respond with. RDU responds with the Countess. It will clear the entire board because the Corrupted Sentries will die first. Well, Darius will die, and then...
We'll see if RDU actually keeps that in mind. If he attacks with Bloodrazor before playing Countess Ashmore.
Countess Ashmore would not die.
Countess Ashmore would not die. And that would also almost set up lethal. Because he's dealing 16 points of damage this turn. But it looks like RDU is going to be on a different plan, and that plan is to complete the quest. He's got 4 more Taunt Maidens to go. We complete that over the next 2 turns with Phantom Militia.
And I like going for the quest. I think RDU recognizes that, you know, Savjz is just almost essentially 1 hero power away from dying. And if RDU can complete this quest as quick as possible, that's all that matters. But this is one of my favorite cards in the set. That was beautiful.
It was.
Sorry, I had to take that in for a moment just to appreciate the Super Defile.
Yeah, fantastic card. You know, a lot of players were 3D crafting that Cube Warlock, Control, Demon Warlock, whatever you want to call it, was still going to be powerful even after losing N'Zoth, because 1, N'Zoth wasn't crucial to your win condition in some matchups, and also because they were getting additional tools like Lord Godfrey to be able to remove board states and solidified leads. Still definitely a powerful deck. This Meat Wagon version hasn't had much testing. In theory, it looks incredibly powerful.
But you never
when
know
you
in
can
practice.
Get that combo off. But
and
in practice, yeah, it may need some tinkering. And now RDU can finish the quest if he goes double Phantom Militia. Can't play the Soul Frost this turn, but can get it online the following turn. It can also swing face with the Bloodrazor to set Savjz to 8 to force him to have to heal out of range of Soul Frost Hero Power on the following turn.
And that's one of the beautiful things about new expansions is just fine-tuning and trying to figure out the most optimal list for a select deck, especially one as crazy and wacky as this Warlock.
Yeah.
And quest is done. Savjz is at 10 health. But Void Lord's coming down. Void Lord does soak up a little bit of damage. But we'll have to just see where the Rag Hero Power wants to land. Been told likes to go face a lot.
By who?
TJ? By actually you.
If you ask Admirable, he's going to say that it only goes face. He also says that he draws the least amount of patches, or draws the most amount of patches out of any player in the history of the game.
I saw him playing last night, and that might be true. That was a sight to see.
He's playing patches in Wild?
No, but ooh. 1 mana off from going Blackwalled Pixie into another hero power.
Yeah.
But next turn, that's still going to be deadly.
Next turn, RDU's going to start throwing bows here.
Throwing bows. And Savjz, I mean, All Savjz can do at this point is just put up a wall and hope it's enough.
Yeah.
Hope that the hero power does not decide to go face.
Because even if he draws Bloody River Gul'dan, he's still going to need an additional turn to gain the value from the hero power and start getting out of range of this hero power. And he also needs to make sure he's flooding the board, worrying about RDU's board. There's so much stuff that he has to do right now at once. It just doesn't feel like he really has a way out. He doesn't even have Bloody River Gul'dan yet. That was a hypothetical scenario. If he were to draw it, he'd still be in a tough situation.
It's be interesting to see what Savjz decides to go for here. Maybe just trying to build the board as wide as possible in order to try and tank some of the rag hits.
Just start Baleful Bankering his Void Lords, I guess.
I mean, you got to put something on the board.
Yeah.
Got to make the board as wide as possible. You can Baleful Banker the Baleful Banker. If you can Baleful Banker some more Baleful Bankers.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's... RDU's probably looking for a way here to maximize the odds of the hero power hitting face. So thinking, well, what if I Whirlwind Execute? What if I want to commit to Blackwalled Pixie? There's Whirlwind Double Execute.
He could go attack into the Void Lord, Whirlwind Primordial Drake, which just leaves a summoning portal, and then try and set up for the Blackwalled Pixie next turn. But that's risky because then Savjz could play Bloody River Gul'dan or another Void Lord, which could interrupt that. Summoning portal being left on the board could be a little dangerous.
Definitely think RDU wants to hit the hero power button this turn. It's just finding the best course of action to take. And that was not the target that I think RDU was hoping to hit.
Not quite.
Can play the Militia Commander. And we haven't seen that card yet. That is a 4-mana 2/5 with Rush, Battlecry for the turn, gain +3 attack. So essentially the turn it comes onto the battlefield, it is a 4-mana 5/5 with Rush. Very powerful removal tool.
RDU expends the Whirlwind here to try and set up for Primordial Drake lethal the next turn to clear up the rest of the minions on board, and then try and guarantee that that hero power shot goes to the face. A lot of things that can interrupt that. Savjz has his own Void Lord still left. Meat Wagon, I guess, could.
Meat Wagon's about to take one for the team.
Yeah.
It's what you were made to do. You were made to take 8 damage.
I don't. Meat Wagon doesn't even summon anything from the deck at this point. Oh wait, Voodoo Doll.
There is also the possibility of playing a bunch of Baleful Bankers. I don't think Savjz is going to go for that. But with Glenda being so cheap,
Yeah.
there is that possibility. But I think Void Lord is definitely something that Savjz wants to play this turn alongside probably the Baleful Banker just to increase the odds if there's no Primordial Drake.
Yeah, it does reduce the likelihood that he draws Blood River Gul'dan if he goes for a Baleful Banker on the Void Lord. But one thing to also notice, Savjz is actually putting on a significant amount of damage to RDU, and he's given up armor up at this point. So there is a slight clock on RDU to finish out this game. I mean, at any turn, if one of those Ragnarok's hero powers hits the face, he wins.
Game's just over.
And he could reduce the likelihood that that happens by trading away 2 of these Voidwalkers. And then he essentially has 2 1/5s. He could even... Yeah, 2 1/5s. But it looks like this produces more likelihood. It's a 1 1/4. Let's see if he hits it.
No, just putting more minions in the way. I mean, maybe Savjz can get there. I didn't think it was possible looking at the hands, but Savjz is a Blood Reaver Gul'dan away.
Yeah, might be a good stabilization tool. Kobold Librarian doesn't help, but it can draw him deeper into his deck. The difference between 7 and 5 health is not huge. But if you don't have any taunts in the way, which he currently doesn't, he could go with Possess Like a Defile and pull the 1 Void Lord he has left in his deck that he put back there with Baleful Banker to put another wall in place.
Can also trade off the Meat Wagon. I'm not sure if there's another Summoning Portal in the deck. to reduce the
No.
cost of minions in the hand even more.
The
Is there
first
no
one
more
was
summoning?
killed by Darius Crowley.
You're
and
correct,
the
so there
second
is
one
no
was
more.
just played from hand, so.
Just Meatwagon, I don't believe summons anything from the deck.
Voodoo Doll, I think.
Okay. Voodoo Doll.
Oh, no. No,
No,
it doesn't.
Because Meatwagon is lower attack.
Yeah, I always keep this thought in my mind that Voodoo Doll's a 0-1, but I think it's a 1-1.
It is a 1-1, yes.
Yeah.
So, Savjz is trying to think. Savjz could Baleful Banker the Summoning Portal and then trade off the Meatwagon in order to
That
pull
could be
that
a
out.
possibility, but what would that accomplish?
Then Glinda could come down, and you could Kobold Librarian yourself to death.
To death. As long as you have board space.
And let's see. Beats looking at something here. Forgot there was a Void Lord shuffled, so getting that Void Lord on the board was important. The
Still
cube has Echo.
in a very rough position.
Yes, very rough.
I do believe that's lethal. Execute 3 Warpaths and a Hero Power.
That is lethal, and it looks like RDU is going to see it and take the set 3-1 over Savjz. TJ, this is not looking good for the Americas region.
No, not at all.
I
That
am
is
super
current. It
scared.
is now 3-0 in favor of the European players in these matches.
I don't even know what the Americas region is going to be allowed to play.
Yeah, not Shaman and not Warlock.
Not
That's
Shaman, not Warlock. And
probably not Paladin either, but we'll have to see. But RDU, that Darius Crowley snowballing the board early on, Savjz not having a good answer to it, allowed RDU to put enough pressure on to where he was able to find these win conditions or outs with getting that hero power to